Warm welcome back, everybody, to Stewards of the Sacred, Self-Leadership, Ritual and Purpose in a Time of Psychedelic Expansion. I'm your moderator and co-host of the event. My name is Jess McCulloch, if this is your first time joining us today, and I'm really thrilled to be here and wishing a warm welcome to those rewatching the recording too. Thank you for being here. So I will recap a bit on the introduction I've given, just in case you're new to joining us. Over the next 3 days, we have an impressive lineup of sessions designed to foster knowledge exchange, collaboration, and inspiration. We have daily sessions live with the speakers that are 75 minutes long, plus more pre-recorded talks go live every day. Today, there are 4 live talks. Tomorrow and Sunday, there'll be 3 live talks. And you can find the lineup and schedule on the event schedule link, which I will post into the group, the chat now. A quick reminder that we do have a community platform where if you buy lifetime access, it means that you'll be able to watch the 33 valuable talks pre-recorded or recorded from the live sessions, all in your own time. That's hosted on Mighty Networks, which is our community platform. And also, if you buy this lifetime access, it means that you will be able to see 2 courses on that platform too, alongside a live discussion throughout the conference, hosted by our wonderful community guide, Liz Le Breton. So Liz will be there for any questions and support. And in this work, we know how important benefit sharing and sacred reciprocity is. So I'm really proud to share our partners. We donate a percentage of all of the lifetime access towards them. So that's the Ancestral Heart and the Fountain organizations. And you can read more about it in the link Partners. So your active participation is encouraged. Use the chat and Q&A features, but we would appreciate it if you could keep the chat box quiet during the talks and save your questions for the moment the Q&A is announced. That's to ensure it's not a busy distraction from the speakers. So please feel free to share in the chat now where in the world you are, because we'd love to see. Natasja and I are currently joining from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So we've got someone from Ibiza in Spain joined. Welcome. Great. And so if you haven't already, you can share the event on your social media channels using the hashtag Stewards of the Sacred. And you can also tag Awaken the Medicine Within. Thank you. So before we dive into our next session, don't hesitate to reach out to our team if you need any assistance during the conference. You can email support@awakenthemedicinewithin.com. Oh, we're seeing more people in the chat here. So there's someone from Ireland, 2 people from Ireland. I think Hawaii by the Aloha. There's Ottawa, Canada, someone come from San Diego, California, Texas, Boulder in Colorado. This is amazing. We're tuning in from all over the world. Very exciting. Thank you so much for being a part of this very special event, Stewards of the Sacred. And now, without further ado, I'll hand it over to the creator of this amazing event and the founder of Awaken the Medicine Within, a dear friend of mine, Natasja Pelgrom. Welcome.
Thank you, Jess, for being such a great support here today and going into our last live call today. And welcome for those that are new. Thank you so much for joining and being so present in our previous calls. And like Jess was naming, we do have the lifetime access and for you to still watch, and just naming also that you can now watch the beautiful conversations that we just had with Jacobine and Hein from the Microdosing Institute earlier today, and our opening session with my talk about living in ceremony at the beginning of the day. So you'll be able to already watch those back. And in a few minutes, Also, the conversation, the interview, and a beautiful sharing of Elizabeth Wood is going to be live. So, but without further ado, who do we have here today? And I also wanted to share, before I forget, please stay on at the end, because we're also going to close with beauty as we opened with beauty today. So at the end, please stay on. But I do want to introduce right now Belinda Gore, so who's here. Let's see if she unmutes and puts her camera on. Hi, Belinda.
Hi.
So great to see you and so happy you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time to drop in with us here at this event.
Yes, of course. It's been a couple of years since we've last spoken. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And I found you through your amazing work and through one of your teachers' work. So, but before I'm going to share, because you have a very impressive bio, and I definitely did not mesmerize it. So I'm going to read it to everybody. Because if I would mesmerize 33 speakers' bios, I would have a really good brain, but that's not in my case. But for those that are not aware and just tuning in and haven't looked it up and going, I'm just going to go to the live. The topic of today is the gift of ancient ritual postures for contemporary conscious expansion. So that's a really potent topic that we're going to lean into. But most importantly, who is Belinda Gore? So she is an inspired teacher as well as an author, artist, psychotherapist, and coach. As a young woman, she traveled to Asia, Africa, south of Europe, and studied metaphysics in England. In addition to her traditional university training, she learned to facilitate dream work as a tool for exploring consciousness and to integrate astrology into her understanding of human condition. These are the skills she continues to use in her teachings and is supporting personal and spiritual development. In 1994, Belinda internationally acclaimed anthropologist Felicitas Goodman, whose research and teachings led to the founding of, you have to tell me how do I pronounce this institute?
Cuimangué.
Cuimangué, yes, because I did not want to mess that up. And Belinda came as a colleague and a close friend of Dr. Goodman, taking the role of president of this institute for a number of years. She has published 2 books about the practice using of ancient ritual postures from indigenous people globally, and recently released a deck of ancient ritual postures, oracle cards for what I personally use those cards as divination. So she continues to travel around the world, teaching these methods using breath, sound, and ritual body postures to access the world of spirits. Belinda is also trained an international Enneagram expert from Don Mauricio and Russ Hudson, and uses the Enneagram system to facilitate personal, professional, spiritual development. Today, she is recognized as a leader in innovative Enneagram practices. Her new book, Finding Freedom, Understanding Our Relationship Using Object Relations and the Enneagram, is a pioneering resource for integrating Enneagram wisdom and developing healthy relationships. What an amazing body of work. Thank you so much for to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and for an opportunity to talk about what I'm now calling ancient ritual postures, because it's been part of my spiritual practice for 40 years, and I care about sharing it so much with the world.
Yes, and you know, to just acknowledge, because when we were off camera, we also acknowledging about our previous conversation with Elizabeth Wood. We ended on the note of the body being the temple, and it seems that we are weaving the day together as one ends, the other one begins. So being from the body postures and ritual, I think it will be really good for maybe this audience, those that are live, but also those that are watching back, might not be aware of the indigenous artwork from around the world that includes these body postures and that can facilitate expandedness consciousness. So enlighten us what that means.
Well, Felicitas Goodman, who was my friend and mentor, she died in 2005. So it's been some years since I was with her. But as an anthropologist in her research, she identified that the artwork of Indigenous people around the world includes large and small figures in various body positions that are very distinctive. And because she was trying to teach her students in university, this was in the 70s, how to speak in tongues, she was trying to teach them how to go into the religious altered state of consciousness. And it sort of worked, but they weren't really having mystical or ecstatic experiences. And so she came across an article about meditation practices and how different meditative disciplines put us in different poses or postures. And that led to her discovery. We've identified probably 80 to 100 ritual postures, and I'm sure there are many, many more. Yes.
I had to unmute myself. Can you speak a little bit about, for example, how that these postures, how did she discover that, and what is the purpose of it? Because
Yes.
is it something that she really discovered by yourself and that you also started using? So can you speak a little bit more into that?
Yes. Actually, Felicitas Goodman she was born in Hungary of German parents, but did her work in the United States. And she was exploring how does the body impact humans' ability to go into the so-called religious altered state of consciousness. So she looked through the ethnographic literature. She just went to books and looked for photographs and drawings of various poses and tried them with individuals and with groups of us to discover what was the impact of holding this pose in a ritual context. So it's not just we all got in a room and stood in a particular way, but we set up the ritual that is really a very generic ritual structure, and then accompanied by rhythmic sound, drumming or rattling. We held a pose for 15 minutes. And it is really quite extraordinary to experience how gently but impactfully holding that pose, the effect it has on us. And really, it's activating various aspects of the body. I think if somebody wanted to do the research, it activates various meridians in the body so that different aspects of our physicality are highlighted. And along with the drumming subdues the rational linear left brain and opens up the right brain that's more dreamlike and emotional. And we start to have experiences that when I first started, I described it to somebody as it's like dreaming while you're awake, but as time passes, it becomes more possible to be an active participant with beings who reside in the spirit world, the invisible ones, the ancestors.
Yes, and in that way, like, could you speak also into our contemporary bodies are neurologically wired to respond to how does that work to these postures, and
Yeah.
how can anybody just go into a posture and then it happens? Like, is there any preparation? Are there things that we should not be doing as well?
Yes. Several good questions in there.
Yeah, I figured I would throw at all of them.
Yeah. First, Felicitas became clear, it was like an awakening for her, that our bodies, the way our bodies are structured, our musculature, our nervous systems are pretty much the same as they were 40,000 years ago. And so we can assume a posture that is like in the Lascaux cave, that's, I think, 36,000 years old. And our bodies are going to be similarly impacted or affected. We've discovered that it's valuable not to use stimulants or depressants of any variety before we go into the ritual. So generally, we don't drink coffee or have a glass of wine or eat a heavy meal so that the body has an opportunity to respond fluidly. While anybody can do these postures, the hunter-gatherer and horticultural peoples who generated the artwork from which we derive these postures lived in community. They were tribal people. And we've found that it is very useful to be with other people. Now, 10 years ago, you would have never convinced me, but I have groups on Zoom so that we participate together across several continents. And when people are experienced in using the postures, that goes very easily. When I do introductory groups, I let them take their time to really learn how to experience the effect of the ritual. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share with you what that basic ritual requirement is. And we identify fundamentally 5 steps. And these were in Felicitas's earliest writings. The first seems like it isn't a step, but it's very important, is we come to the experience open to it. You know, we found that if people are saying, I don't think anything's going to happen and this is a bunch of rubbish, well, they don't tend to experience very much, which means simply that the left brain can shut down the experience, that the subtlety of opening in the right brain can be overridden by the left brain. So the first step is we come ready, prepared. And when we do the ritual, we use smudging with fragrant herb or resin to just give ourselves the experience of saying, yes, I'm cleaning my energy field, I'm getting ready for this experience. The second step is that we create sacred space, not unlike drawing the circle in the Wiccan tradition. Many spiritual practices are done in specific sacred spaces, but we do this by setting prayer ties in the east, the south, the west, the north, the above, and the below. We're basically saying in this space, we're held and we're safe, and so we can open to the invisible worlds. The third step we added because we all use our minds so much and our minds are so active that we do just a 5-minute breathing exercise, similar to a lot of preparation for meditation, to calm down the thinking and stabilize our awareness in the belly center, the dantian or the ka. Then the next step is that we assume a posture. And I said, we know probably 100. I created the oracle cards partly so that people could just like take the cards, and if they want, they could draw a card and use that to decide which posture to use, or the cards we could separate out healing or divination or journeying, that is along the tree of the world, or shape-shifting, or initiation into the death and rebirth mysteries. So we need to select a posture, practice it, and then in the pose, we do a rattling for 15 minutes. So it's just a nice, even rhythm to keep the nervous system tuned up. That's the extent of the ritual.
Yes, and so, for example, with the postures, I know from working with the postures and your book and everything, is that you have certain postures for certain intentions or outcomes. Can you speak a little bit? Because there are also some archetypical kind of postures where we go, oh, I know that. Oh, that's for that kind of journey. So maybe you can
Yeah.
speak a little bit into that.
We realized as the research continued and we had a lot of postures that we had different kinds of experiences with different postures. And the ones that we consider primarily for healing generally had a lot of energy in the body. There might have been visual experiences. Often grandfather bear would come along and dismember somebody, for instance, or pull your head off and pull out that bad thinking that was creating the difficulty. But there was a feeling of the body was experiencing a flow of energy. Often there was heat. With divination postures, it's quite different. And most of the activity is in the head center. And we tend to ask questions, and more in divination postures than others, we hear something, we hear words, maybe directions, maybe a conversation that helps answer the question. Spirit journeys along the world tree, so to the sky world, along the middle world, or into the beneath world, there is a sense of traveling, that we go into the waters or into the earth, or we fly. And so we're visiting literally other realms. Metamorphosis or shape-shifting, there are lots of traditions about practitioners actually changing into a bird or a coyote or something. We're not practitioners at that level. However, we have felt experiences of having a snout, or big muscles moving along in the forest, or what it's like to have a tail, or what it's like to hunt. I just did a 10-month series of shape-shifting postures, and what came out of it is a sense of flexibility, a sense of not being so rigidly attached to a certain way of being in the world. And then the initiation postures, often people have experiences of dying or being born, or both. And we find it really very helpful. Once long ago, we went into a hospital to work with people who were getting ready to die. We unfortunately didn't get to stay very long. The nursing staff didn't like what we were doing, but it's just to oh, this is what it feels like to die. Now, I don't know when it's my time to die. I'll find out if indeed that's what it is, but the experience of death is much less intimidating because of multiple times of feeling the leaving the body and going into a non-physical form.
Yes, and when it comes to all these different ways of working with the posture, then working with the ritual itself, and having a beginning and an end, working with the rattle, like all of these steps that you've just guided us through, these 5 steps. In my personal experience with that, it's a really potent way to continue to work with your own consciousness and expansion of that consciousness, with the relationship to our bodies, because 9 and 10 times are not so relating to our bodies at all. And in this conference, we're speaking a lot about plant medicines and psychedelics and theogenic experiences. And for the reason that I wanted you to be here with us today is to also help people to remember that there is a capacity that we could do as a conduit with our own bodies in that way.
Mm-hmm.
In terms
Yes.
of, are there postures that are specifically, let's say, for a more experienced person to do than a starting person? And are there postures that you go like you shouldn't go into, like, maybe certain things you shouldn't do, so
Well,
could you speak into that as well?
yes. First, I want to affirm my belief that we're neurologically wired for these kinds of experiences. That the reason plant medicine works is because we have the equipment already in us. And the ritual with the postures activates that same process that the plants are able to activate for us as well. There are postures we tend to use in starting people that they're simple to hold, and the spirits who, like the bear spirit posture, Grandfather Bear is so well known around all of the Northern Hemisphere as a healer, and is quite a reliable posture for new people to undertake. There are other postures. We learned one in the early 90s from the Danube Valley that it's the oldest one we know. And she is so sophisticated. The arm is raised, the left arm is raised, and the right arm holds a stick that's pointed to the ground. And what happens is that energy flows down the arm, through the heart center, and down the other arm and into the earth. In our first experiences, one woman broke out in like hives, a kind of a rash, because the impact of that flow, that intense flow of energy, was a bit too much for her. The only ones we don't recommend there's one that's the calling of the animals that we believe was used by hunters. And it seems not fair to the animals around that we would use something that would impact them. The Aboriginal bone pointing one that's used to direct energy against someone, we don't use or teach. Otherwise, I think that it's a natural selection process that people just fall asleep or say nothing happened, or it's as though their consciousness can't take it in, and so they don't really have much of an experience, while other people in the room doing with the same ritual and the same posture are having elaborate or ecstatic experiences.
I just very quickly wanted to show, because I think it's nice for people to have a little image. So I'm showing it here. Oh, you also see my light.
That's the bear.
That's
the bear spirit posture.
So I'm just gonna put that a little bit closer.
Yeah. And so you see the bear behind the shaman providing support. Yes. What were you saying?
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that so what would be the posture? Is the posture of what the bear is doing, basically?
No, the posture is the one that the shaman is doing.
Yes.
Now, the bear, the way its paws are like palms up, we see that same gesture in other postures around the world. But that particular one, it's the shaman standing really with the hands sort of in a loose fist over making a little kind of tent over the navel and leaning back with the mouth open. It's a very simple pose.
Yeah. Why also this one speaks to me is because, just to share a little personal story about one of my ayahuasca journeys was with the shaman, and the bear was exactly like that behind him.
I love it. Yes.
Also,
yes.
not with the posture, but I say,
yes.
so that's also
yes.
can also happen that you see these stories play out. So I'm curious, like one person on one side of the world and another person on the other side of the world might have the same kind of image while they're not connected culturally at all. So could you speak
Right.
into how that works?
Yes, the cultural connection is through the postures, through the pose. So just as the bear came up behind you, one of my most powerful experiences with Grandfather Bear many years ago, late 80s, I was going through a divorce, and the bear came up behind me and he unzipped his whole torso, opened himself up, and took me inside so that I felt the support that I needed and the toxins were being drawn out of me. One of the things that I find fascinating is that different people in different locations can have similar imagery. And it may be that it is connected with the culture that generated the posture. Or that if you want to speak of it in this way, that Grandfather Bear is real. That we're not talking about an illusion. We're talking about a very real presence that exists in the invisible world. And we experience that presence in similar ways. Between your experience and mine in a posture, yours with ayahuasca, but Grandfather Bear was there.
Yes. And I would like to go into another posture, because I think this one is one that I've journeyed with. I'm bringing in my own personal journeys a little bit into this.
Great.
Because as a for people here to fully understand, because it might be new, to some here, and that's this one. And I think and why I'm bringing this one is because probably everybody knows this. And never have you probably ever thought that this could be a ritualistic journey.
Yeah. Yes. So she's the sleeping lady of Malta.
So I'm just going to put it a little bit closer so people can really
great.
Drawing.
Yes. She's lying on her side, but one of the things we've learned to do over the years is to be very precise about the detail. So exactly where is her hand that she rests her head on, and how do the fingers of the other hand rest on that arm, and which leg is on top of the other, and where are the feet, so that it's not just lie down on your side, that we want to be very specific, because if we are in fact activating meridian pathways, that needs to be precise, just as your practitioner who's putting a needle into that meridian wants to be very precise. But people often say, oh, I sleep that way. Not just with that one. There are some with the arm over the top, or, I'm lying here with my arms crossed. And I believe that our bodies at a deep cellular level remember poses that have been part of ritual experience for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, and what would the sleeping lady of Malta, what would she be a conduit for?
Well, she does an experience into, let me just read to you what she is. I'll take just a moment for this, that it's more of a going into she's part of the hypogeum, which is, and I think she's here in the spirit journeys. So her journey is, oh, may I read this to you?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think we're
So
all
when I wrote the book, I did the collages of the cards, but I also wrote a poem to channel my experience over the years with that posture or that spirit. I am the one they call the sleeping lady of Malta. Drifting on my numinous cloud, I dream of worlds beyond. In the Maltese temple hypogeum, I have lived under the earth in my red cave, ready to take you on a journey to the underworld. It is the womb of the mother. I can show you how to return to her. I can show you how to die. Tunneling down, we come to a new and unexpected place where animal spirits and shadowy figures gather around, curious to welcome you. The living do not often come here. They greet you with welcome, glad to reveal their home beneath the earth, the underworld. Drifting on my numinous cloud, I dream of worlds beyond the living. Will you journey with me? Let the spirits welcome you. Learn the secrets of returning to the mother's womb. Will you journey with me? In the underworld, we can show you how to die.
Wow, beautiful. Very beautiful. It encapsulates completely, and I think everybody's understanding what is being spoken about here.
Right.
Right. And in my own personal work and in providing, you know, space holding and holding space for others and myself in that sense, postures are very important because it's a way to communicate in a language with that is bigger, the great mystery spirit, great spirit.
Yes.
And it's a coding, for me, it's a coding of a language of communication with, and I don't share this with people at all, but now I'm sharing it with a lot of people.
Yes.
So for those that are watching that have been in my ceremony, have seen me in a posture, yep. But it's interesting how intuitively you know certain things that come up. And from your perspective in psychology and your perspective of bringing these ancient teachings forth and also bridging it into, you know, like relationship building, which is also about your last book. What do you see as really important to bring these rituals, combining it in everyday practices or combining it with maybe the psychological aspect of our self-inquiry and work? How do you see that?
Well, in many ways, that's a big question. So I'm going to just go with what arises for me. First is we learn how to build a relationship with invisible beings, with the spirits. And I emphasize that because while the spirit world is powerful, so many people tend to think of it as dangerous. But it's dangerous the way electricity is dangerous. You know, if misused, it will kill you. But if used properly, it provides great expansions of our capacity for living. I believe that currently, as you say, so many people around the world have not been encouraged to be grounded in our bodies. That we tend to, if you ask somebody to point to themselves, they either do this or this, you know, where, you know, I invite the listeners, when you think about where you exist in your body, a lot of people go behind their eyes. And learning how to let that center of beingness be in the belly and in the body allows us to be what some indigenous teachings have brought forth in a variety of ways, that as humans, our job is to be the intermediary between the sky world and the beneath world, to consciously embody physicality while we also provide a container for consciousness. And that coming together requires that we are attuned to the magnificence of our bodies and to recognize that our bodies are made of the elements of the earth. And so we are quite literally the earth's children. You know, when we speak of Mother Earth, it's a really true relationship. We're made of her body. And to be in our bodies and conscious at the same time is both our gift and our calling as human beings, I believe. So we live in an age where we have a lot of stimulation for our mental body and for our understanding of consciousness, but not always to experience that as part of the consciousness of our cells. That cellular consciousness is an important part of the expansion, that we're gifted with the opportunity to live in a time when this level of expansion is occurring.
Yeah. Yes. I wanted to go in a direction, but I'm deciding to go a different direction.
Okay.
I just interrupted myself in the flow of so in terms of the body postures and, you know, creating a practice with them, what is the multidimensionality that happens really in it? Like, what can you, what is really happening in those postures, let's say?
Well, I'm not sure I fully know what's really happening. However,
Yeah,
we're coming together or practicing with intention. And I really do encourage new people to practice with at least a few other people, or there's several online groups. I do online classes to learn it, because sometimes people come to the experience, and especially Felicitas called them ecstatic body postures. And I remember a workshop I was teaching in New York City, and at the first break, the guy came up and he said, "So when do we get to the ecstasy?" You know, and it was like, well, you have to build the container first. And it's not just a switch. We cultivate the capacity to hold our physicality and expand our consciousness at the same time. You asked another part of the question that I don't really remember. Yeah, what direction shall I go?
well, I mean, I would love to actually show you another card, because I think it's really
Great.
good for people to actually really understand, because there are so many images that we might really know. And I think in our previous conversation with Elizabeth Wood, we were also talking about the priestess and priests and ancient Egypt. And so I wanted to pull in this to weave in that conversation, which is Egyptian diviner.
Yes, hold it down a little. Yes,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
an Isis figure,
Yeah.
but we didn't call her that. I encountered this in the Louvre. I mean, I was just, you know, I was on holiday and I
Yeah.
walked by this case and there she was. And so we do see postures still in Egypt, among the Maya, for instance. But once the civilization shifted into a more dualistic worldview in which we separated ourselves from the spirits, then the experience of ecstatic trance seemed to go away from at least our churches or spiritual teachings. It just doesn't happen so much, even though there are charismatic Christians and there's Kabbalah in Judaism, and there whirling dervishes, Sufi practitioners in Islam. So the ecstasy, the ecstatic practice is still there, but we're having to unlearn a lot of the belief that that's too Dionysian, that's too chaotic or out of control. So we do the practice of setting a safe space, grounding our awareness in the belly, and then allowing ourselves to experience, not wanting to be overtaken by a consciousness, but to be in dialogue with or experiencing with. So we don't lose consciousness, we just become aware. In that posture, the Egyptian diviner, she's for me, a very powerful experience of Isis. I almost couldn't do it at first because it was so strong, and I thought that her consciousness was going to overtake me. But then I learned to speak with her, and we speak humbly, but with an appreciation for our individual capacity. Early on, I was at the Cuyamonga Institute in New Mexico, and I was having this experience. And in the experience, in the trance experience, I said, thank you so much for all of this. I don't know why you're giving me these experiences. And the old ones, the ancestors, said, we need you as much as you need us. And it is that sense of calling up the spirituality of the land, of honoring all things instead of believing that it's ours to use or control, that we live in respectful harmony with all things. And that's one of the contributions we can make when we're practicing in this way.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's so precious, because there is, when we go into one of the talks with that will go live on day 3, which is with Joytie Ma, grandmother elder Joytie Ma, talking about sacred territories and about honoring the lands. I also feel that, bringing in ritual in that relationship and the basis of it, and speaking about living in ceremony, which is something that I'm, speaking about, is how do you build that relationship, is by bringing those rituals in that relationship, which
Yes.
posture is part of honoring almost the territory that you're in. And also
Yes.
looking at how the waters are flowing and what shapes are there. There's like, again, the word coding for me. Someone is asking to hold up the cards longer. I will, but I don't have them anymore. The ones that I just did.
Let me show you this one.
Yes.
This is, we know her as the Venus of Losel. Some people think that she's holding a moon, but she's holding a bison horn.
Yes.
And it's marked with 12 marks. So it's separating 13 segments, which are the 13 moons of a woman's menstrual cycle. What's his name? Leonard Schlein suggested that women were the first ones to start using counting because they were counting the moons, counting the days between the moons. And she's carved, or was carved, into the side of a cave in the Dordogne region in France. she's a more well-known posture than some.
Yeah. Would you mind, because you have your cards there, because your screen is maybe bigger than mine. Can you, the Egyptian one and the Sleeping Lady of Malta, maybe you can show it again and then.
Well, let me see, because I've got a whole thing of cards, so
I will
it'll
show because
take
I
me a
have them right
moment.
here. I hope you see it
Okay,
now better.
that's good. Yeah. I've got the Egyptian diviner right here. So when you're
Yes.
done with that, but pointing that out, it's like you see how her arm is the hand is on a very particular place. And, there are lots of things that in the book that goes with the cards, I have a written description so that because we don't always them, uh, notice those details. Here's the Egyptian diviner. So she has her legs together, her feet on the floor, and you see that one arm is held rigidly by her side. And I don't know if you could even see it. The thumb on her hand rests against the thigh, while then the other one, the thumb is on the breast, very specifically. And that arm is also held rigidly beside the body. So she's sitting, the larger image would show her sitting more on a throne-like structure, I believe. And the thing I love, though, is that they're from all over the world. This one is called the Adina Pipe posture, and it's from Ohio, which is where I live. The Adina people lived here about 2,500 years ago, and it's a very sophisticated little pose. The knees are deeply bent. You see that the mouth is open. There are ear plugs in the ears, which were commonly made of copper and worn as jewelry. And if we could turn him around, we'd see he had a feather bustle around the backside of him. And somebody's saying it looks like a Tai Chi stance. Yes, of course. Because as we were saying, the wisdom held in our cells puts us in connection with this very ancient wisdom about our bodies assisting us in being open to certain states of consciousness.
Yeah. And your little book, I mean, we're promoting you a lot, but it's really a beautiful tools of rituals, and it's something you can do and tap into. And I find it such an amazing resource. But the little book even has a CD, which for those who remember, we had CDs with the drumming of Dr. Felicitas Goodman, who was actually drumming. And for me, I put that drumming on because I think when you go to the original person that has reawakened that, and that drumming is just an energy that you tap into, which I appreciate. But those kind of things is beautiful to do. Yes, tell.
Well, so we realized that the world doesn't really play CDs, and so when you buy this book, it includes access online to so you can play it and stream it, because people just don't do that anymore. I confess, though, I was reading the beginning of my book called The Ecstatic Experience, the one with the CD, just as a refresher of language I've used over the years, because it was published, I don't know, 12 years ago or something like that. And I liked it. I appreciated remembering the insights that were available, that have been available all along. I met Felicitas Goodman in 1984, and so I am so grateful to her mentoring and her willingness to be really a pioneer as an anthropologist, to be a practitioner as well as an observer, was not considered professional. And I appreciate her willingness to step over that line so that she understood the experience itself, not just reporting on other people's experiences.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for saying that. And we're going to open up the chat right now for questions. And while the questions are coming in, I'm going to maybe ask you to share one more posture, like
Oh, sure.
from your card
Let's
deck,
see.
like one.
Let's find one from a different part of the world. Oh, I love this one. This is the Polynesian god Tangaroa, but he's in a birthing posture. So he's clearly male. We see the penis, but the posture is considered the birthing posture. But what's elegant is he has all these little figures of people in other postures, that it's like he's birthing humans and showing them ways to stay connected with the spirits. I think it's just an elegant way to help us see that we are designed to be in relationship with the spirit world. You know, that spirits aren't like the spirit of somebody who died and is coming to haunt you, but they are the beings who live in, Felicitas called it the alternate reality. But I was reading a bit that I wrote right before she died. I was talking with her a lot about dying. She was in a nursing home and had had several strokes. And I wanted to be sure she remembered about the process of making the journey to the alternate reality. And because she'd had strokes, she couldn't talk very well. All of a sudden, she just looked me in the eye and she said very clearly, she said, "Belinda, it's all alternate reality." You know, and really, I mean, that's the spirit world, is everything. We live as manifestations within that larger reality.
Yeah. Beautiful. And so one question is already coming in, and the question is from Julia. She's asking, and you really do this in 50 minutes at a time?
Yes. The whole ritual takes about 30 to 40 minutes, you know, to
the 5
set the
steps
prayer
that you
ties.
explained, right?
Yeah. But the rattling is only 15 minutes. Initially, that was because Felicitas was doing research. She had to have a specific time so that the data would be comparable. But we found 15 minutes is enough. More than that, some people experience an overload in their nervous systems, because, you know, we weren't trained to be shamans. We weren't trained from childhood to take that specific role. And 15 minutes is enough. That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And it does take, I mean, I do have to say that personally, just as an addition, if you have a good body awareness, if you do yoga, if you do breath work, if you are a meditator, I do believe in, or you do nothing, I do think that maybe there is a little bit of the motor needs to start running, you know, because it's development of awareness that you're also creating, right? Like it takes a little while to get into it, and also trust that needs to be cultivated, and going, what just happened? Well, this must be my imagination, right? These questions pop in too.
Yes. It's one of the things I always say in workshops, because people say, is this my imagination? And I say, when in any other 15 minutes in your life do you have astounding experiences like this? You know, but it takes time for the nervous system to learn to make the shift. So the first 3 or 4 times people try the ritual postures, they may not have a big experience. Sometimes though too, people will go through the whole thing and feel like they didn't have much of an experience, and then that night in their dreams, the real contact will occur. That can happen as well.
Yeah, good. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, so I'm doing my best, but Alio, the last image is nude. Are they all? And was nudity standard operating procedure? Have you? Is it possible in modern culture because of sexual overconditioning? So I think it's about the nudity. Do we need to be nude in these postures?
No, we don't need to be nude.
That was my question moving into it.
Yeah. You know, if people want to be, and there's an appropriate environment for that. But the caveat here is that sometimes there are aspects of the clothing. See if I can find one. I love this. This is the Cernunnos posture, the Celtic horned god. And sometimes we've made horns, antlers. He's holding a serpent. We have cloth serpents. And what's in his other? Oh, a torque, like a circular, we use small grapevine wreaths for that. So sometimes the clothing, the cap, the something might be something you want to include. There's another one here, the Sami from the reindeer herders, the trip to the lower world. You see there's a drum on the shaman's back. So sometimes if people have flat drums or even pillows, they might put them on their backs just for the weight of it, to encourage as much physical sensation associated with the posture as we're taught, or the information that's given in the pose itself.
Yeah, beautiful. We have another beautiful question from Thomas. Can you recommend or share your favorite books on rituals and ceremony, history and performance, and even postures in ceremony and ritual? Do you know that even? Does it exist?
Well, you know, I'm not a scholar of ritual and ceremony. I'm a teacher and practitioner of ancient ritual postures. So Felicitas Goodman's book, Where the Spirits Ride the Wind, is her version. And I have a couple of books about the use of ritual postures. But beyond that, I'm afraid I'm not a good resource.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe there's an opportunity here to become a resource. So another question from Julia. With breath work, the group clearly makes the experience much stronger. Is it the same for this work? To what degree can I do this alone at home? Great question. Thank you.
Okay. So first, the breath work we use is that 5 minutes of preparation between, you know, setting the ritual space, smudging, calling the spirits of the 6 directions, feeding them, which I didn't go into all of the detail with that. And then we sit quietly, focusing on the belly center to calm down our thinking, but we're breathing together as well. And I think that's a very powerful tool, whether we're together in the physical space or if we're on Zoom together, but we're breathing together. But it's not guided breath work as is sometimes done in other sessions. Can you do it by yourself? Yes. I mean, it's possible. I think it's better if you invite a couple of people to join you to practice together, because the synergy of our energy together is really helpful in making the connection.
Yeah, very good. So another one is from Tracy, and there are a few questions in this question. So I'm not sure if we're going to get exactly to what you mean, Tracy, but this is an inspiring and moving content. Thank you. Thank you for Belinda as well. I'm a longtime Qigong practitioner and newer to psychedelic microdosing coach. I witness there are, of course, many crossovers of alternate realities. Does your work look at postures from all cultures? So that's question one. We can answer that. And do you think ancient shamans necessarily accessed plant/earth medicines of psychedelic varieties, or not necessarily? I think the last question is that related to the posture work, I guess.
Yeah. So let's see. The first question, just come back and remind me.
Does your work look at postures from all cultures?
Yes. Well,
you see them in the deck.
It is. Yeah. Felicitas's premise is that hunter-gatherer and horticulturer, which is the gardens, planting small gardens, not agriculture, those were cultures in which the boundary between the visible and the invisible was more porous. And in those cultures around the world, we find ritual postures. So in the deck, I have postures from, literally all over the world. I don't think in this I have any from Australia. But other than that, although the feathered serpent shows up in Australia as well, some postures are from, we can have the same pose in 5 different countries. Some are more unique to one area. I'm looking at one, a Tsimshian shamaness from the Pacific Northwest, Olmec from Mexico, the fish woman from Old Europe, the Venus of Locelle from Old France, but literally from around the world. Now, some cultures, like in China and India, the indigenous culture was so long ago, and the basically agricultural religions, which we know as the Eastern religions, are so pronounced that we tend not to have much access to indigenous peoples in those areas and whatever postures they may have had.
Yeah.
So answer number 1. Now, the question about using plant medicine, certainly we know, for instance, I showed you the Adena pipe, so it was a pipe, and they grew native tobacco and definitely utilized that. So there are, where these postures have been found, some archaeological evidence of plant medicine that may have been used in conjunction with them. However, it's not necessary, but it's possible, certainly.
Yeah. Good. We're almost coming to or closing with Belinda here, but I'm going to ask, there was one more question, a practical question. Are the steps and instructions to the ritual included in the oracle deck?
Yes. There's the deck comes with this little book. So, I mean, it's not just one of those teeny tiny ones that sometimes we get with tarot cards or something. So there's quite a lot of information, and the ritual itself, as well as access to the recording of drumming and rattling, is included in the book. It's a little box set. So the box is here, the book's in it, the cards are in it.
Yeah. I would just purchase the other book as well. That was really, that was a great resource. To be honest, I would say
this is the one you were
static experiences. That's how I don't even remember how I found you. It was actually in the middle of the night after a ceremony. I tell you. But that's for a different story.
Yeah, you got help. Yes.
Yes, I got help. Yeah, it was very interesting. But yeah, so that book, I would personally recommend that book, and then with the cards, because that book, it's really easy read and it gives so much logic and content, and very clear how to work with that. You can buy it anywhere. Yes, you can buy it anywhere. So Belinda, I want to thank you so much for your time, your dedication, from seeing you again, and for being here with the Stewards of the Sacred. For those interested in following Belinda, Jess has now put in the comment for you to go and enroll to her newsletter. There's online things you can do, but it's really important that I want to just name that we've been today really weaving all of these practices in, and we're honing in on things that are, you know, actual things you can do to bring in the importance of ritual into everyday life. And one of the speakers that's going to go live on Sunday, which is Aradia Sumseri, and she's going to speak about the body, Dance Your Mythos, which I definitely recommend. If the body and these topic, they were also weaving that aspect in there. So definitely worth checking all of that out. And yeah, as a last but not least, it's really important as we open in beauty that we close in beauty today. So I wanted to I'm just going to share our screen slightly differently so we see all of us here together. And, you know, it's important to as for those that were present this morning in our opening session, and that we close together. So bringing in just that awareness for all the people that were there this morning who might have dropped off, those that are actually watching the recording, and those that maybe, you know, still tuning in, maybe coming in a little bit later. So we're just holding that space for everybody in this moment. So inviting you to just maybe, if it's safe to do so, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. But, you know, if it's safe to do so, for a moment, just closing your eyes and taking that deep breath in and going into the posture of the sovereign, the posture of dignity and discernment of a steward that you are, of the leader that you are in your life. And just bringing in the awareness of all the beauty that has been shared here today. And I wanted to close today with, again, burning a little bit of sage, of my own personal sage that I grow here, and using the hawk feather that is gifted to me by my really dear medicine sister, Jessica Grotfield. So the hawk feather, bring that back into our space and just blowing a little bit and bringing in that awareness that we opened up with the different directions. And then I wanted to close with the different directions as well. So just imagine that we're standing in this field together on the earth, and as we stand and face the east, the spirit, the quality of the east, the direction of new beginnings, the home of the winds, we thank for your blessings, and we thank the wisdom here today and stewards of the sacred in this unified field that we're creating. Thank you for protecting us, for guiding us. And those that are all represented in the East, the qualities, the ancestors, the spirit animals. Thank you. And as we stand in that field and we turn around and face the south, as we call in the gratitude for the spirit of the south, the qualities of the south, the direction of passion, of creation, of inspiration, and the home of fire. We ask for your blessings, and we thank the qualities that came forth today. Those that have walked this path before us, the animals, the qualities. Thank you for your protection, Spirit of the South. Thank you for being here today. And then we turn to the West, the beautiful spirit of the West, the qualities of the West, the direction of the harvest, the home of water. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for your wisdom here today. Thank you for your protection here today. Thank you for the guardians and those that walk this path before us from the West, and the animals and all that is represented in the West. Thank you. And as we bring it into the mind's eye, into the imagination. We turn and face the north, the spirit of the north, the qualities of the north, the essence of the north, the direction of stillness, of introspection, of deep earth, of our ancestors. Thank you for your blessings and your protection and your wisdom here today. Thank you for those guardians and those that walk this path before us and the animals and the qualities represented in the north. Thank you. Now we turn and face the east and kneel and touch the earth. So just in our mind's eye, imagine that we are in this grand circle with thousands that are tuning in to Stewards of the Sacred. Imagine that we're standing in that circle and touching the earth together. Acknowledge the one to your left, the one to your right. And we thank the earth for holding us in all her fertility. We are grateful for the life you provide us all. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your protection for all of us here today. Thank you, Spirit of Mother Earth. And we stand up and we turn and we face upwards to Father, Son, Grandmother Moon, our star brothers and sisters. We raise our hands and arms, we look up and thank you for shining your daylight so that all living things can thrive. Thank you for the glowing moon and the stars. These light our way so we can always be reminded of the realms above, even in times of darkness. Thank you for your blessings and your wisdom with us here today. And just acknowledging, maybe placing your hands on your chest, on your heart, on your spiritual heart, and just acknowledging yourself for a moment for taking the time to tune in, to learn, to grow, to connect, for your own wisdom that is shared, for your presence, for wherever you are on your path. Just acknowledging. And from this place of acknowledging of the within, I want to acknowledge as well our beautiful speakers here today that were here live. Jacobine and Hein from Microdosing Institute. Elizabeth Wood. Belinda Gore. And then beautifully, you'll have access today to one of amazing oracle and priestess, Kazumi Oshii. She is an amazing oracle from Japan. You'll be able to watch her live right now with the recordings. Acknowledging Dr. Marie Mumbuni for her great work. Alexander Beiner for his great work. Isis Indriya for her great work. Amazing Pam Montgomery for her great work. Tricia Eastman for her great work. Kat Courtney for her great work. And Satya for her great work. All of these recordings are now live. Enjoy. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. We have beautiful new talks coming. 3 live ones with Julian Vane, Modu Baki, and Ruby Reed. And the schedule is now also available. We will share that. And for those that want to go a little bit deeper in contact with us, join the Lifetime Access. There's a lot of you who purchased Lifetime Access, but you haven't joined the platform yet. So do that so we can continue the conversations and the learning together. Thank you so much. Thank you, Belinda, for staying on for our closing. Have a beautiful evening, day, and morning, everybody. It was a pleasure to kick off the first Stewards of the Sacred Day. Thank you.